I 24F come from a big family that takes birthdays very seriously. Grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins, everyone goes all out for parties, and growing up, I watched as each family member got their big day celebrated with love, gifts, prayers, and attention. Everyone except me. Since I was a kid, my cousins Olivia 25F, Megan 26F, and Jake 27M, who I now call the trio, made sure my birthday was never something to look forward to. It started small when we were little. A few mean jokes, swapping my birthday candles with trick ones that wouldn't blow out, hiding my presents. Just kid stuff, right? That's what my parents always said. But as we got older, their pranks escalated. One year, they convinced my parents to throw me a surprise party. I walked into the room expecting a fun celebration, only to find an empty house. They had sent fake invitations to the entire family, telling them my party had been moved to a later date. I spent the whole day wondering why nobody showed up, while they laughed about it behind my back. Another time, they replaced my actual presents with gag gifts. I unwrapped box after box of ridiculous junk. One year, it was a bunch of mismatched socks. Another year, it was a can of dog food with a ribbon on top. My parents told me to take the joke while everyone else, including my aunt and uncle, laughed along. But my 24th birthday? That was when I finally snapped. That year, I decided to keep my birthday small, just a dinner with close family. No big parties, no room for sabotage. But the trio found a way. Midway through dinner, they stood up and loudly announced they had hired a special guest, just for me. I had a sinking feeling, but before I could say anything, in walked a guy in a tacky, oversized suit with a microphone, singing Telegram. In front of my parents, my grandparents, everyone, this man burst into an off-key song about how I was still single at 24, how I was falling behind, and even made a joke about my ex who had dumped me the year before. I sat there, frozen, as the entire room cracked up while he danced around me, snapping his fingers. By the time it was over, my face was burning. The trio was howling with laughter, and even my parents were chuckling. I got up, excused myself, and locked myself in the bathroom. Later, when I confronted my parents, they just shrugged it off. "It's all in good fun," my mom said. "They're just joking. You need to learn to laugh at yourself." Something inside me clicked. It wasn't just the trio. It was my whole family. They had let this happen year after year. Nobody had ever stood up for me. Nobody had ever told them to stop. They let them turn my birthday into a joke while making sure their birthdays were perfect. I realized I was done. If they wanted to make my birthdays miserable, I was going to make theirs unforgettable, just not in the way they wanted. The trio loved throwing huge birthday parties. Olivia, the social butterfly, always had an extravagant, invite-only rooftop event. Megan, obsessed with aesthetics, made sure her garden party was Instagram perfect. And Jake, the self-proclaimed cool guy, turned his birthday into a massive bar crawl with friends, family, and coworkers. And conveniently, all of their birthdays were coming up in the next few months. I started gathering intel, paying attention to their plans, their guest lists, what mattered most to them. The best revenge wasn't something obvious. No, I needed to make sure that when their birthdays fell apart, it would look like pure bad luck. But I wasn't going to do it alone. My younger brother, Ethan 21M, had always been on my side. He had seen the way they treated me, and he hated them for it. The moment I told him my plan, he was all in. Say first, Olivia. Her party was supposed to be an exclusive, high-end event, so I started spreading a rumor among the family that she actually wanted everyone to come, even those who weren't invited. A few well-placed words in the right group chats, and suddenly aunts, uncles, cousins, people she never intended to invite, were planning to crash her party. Next, Megan. Her entire identity revolved around throwing the perfect Instagram-worthy event. I just needed to nudge things in the right direction. I made a casual comment to our uncle about how much she loved her garden party and how she hoped it wouldn't rain or get too muddy. The next day, he got overly enthusiastic and watered the yard way too much, turning it into a soggy, muddy mess. And then there was Jake. He was the worst of them, always the ringleader, always the one who made sure I was humiliated the most. And I knew his biggest secret. A while back, I had overheard him talking about how he had lied on his resume to get his current job. He had told everyone he quit his last job, but in reality, he had been fired for falsifying his experience. So I drafted an anonymous email and scheduled it to send to his boss the morning of his birthday. I had spent years being the quiet one, the one who took the jokes, who laughed it off, who never fought back. Not anymore. For the first time ever, I wasn't dreading birthday season. I was looking forward to it, because this year, the trio wasn't going to be laughing. This year, they were going to get exactly what they deserved. And the best part, they'd never see it coming. Olivia's birthday was the first one up, and if there was one thing she lived for, it was making sure everyone knew just how exclusive and elite her parties were. She didn't throw casual get-togethers, she hosted events. This year was no different. She had booked a high-end rooftop venue in the city, the kind with velvet ropes at the entrance and a strict guest list-only policy. The invitations had gone out weeks in advance, and she made sure to remind everyone that not just anyone was getting in. She even hired a professional photographer to capture the flawless evening. But thanks to a few careful adjustments on my part, the night wasn't going to be nearly as perfect as she planned. The cracks started showing before the party even began. Olivia had a habit of making sure only the right people got invited. Her closest friends, a handful of hand-picked cousins, and anyone she thought would make her party look better. Aunts, uncles, and extended family, usually excluded. But this year, some of those aunts and uncles had finally had enough. A few of them started asking questions in the family group chat, wondering why once again their kids weren't invited. Olivia's parents tried to brush it off, saying it was a smaller event this year, but that excuse didn't fly when pictures of the massive venue started circulating. People were not happy. And that's when things got even better. A week before the party, I made a quick phone call to the venue. Pretending to be Olivia, I casually asked about their guest policy. The manager assured me that yes, additional guests were allowed to show up, as long as they mentioned the party name at the door. Perfect. A few relatives had started murmuring in group chats, wondering if Olivia had actually invited everyone this time. I casually mentioned to an aunt that Olivia's party might be more open than usual, and that rumors spread just enough for a few unexpected guests to show up at the venue. It wasn't an overwhelming crowd, but enough that Olivia's exclusivity started slipping. At first, the staff let them in. After all, they thought Olivia was fine with it. But as the numbers grew, things started getting out of hand. More and more people showed up, all thinking they were invited, all dressed up and excited for a fancy night out. By the time Olivia noticed, it was too late. She tried to quietly tell the staff to start turning people away, but word had already spread. Some of the uninvited family members weren't about to leave without a scene. One of the aunts, who had been ignored by Olivia for years, loudly asked why her kids were never welcome while the important cousins always were. Another uncle, already a few drinks in, started telling people how Olivia and the trio had always acted like they were better than everyone else. The venue staff, now dealing with way more guests than they expected, struggled to keep up. Drinks were running low, tables were overcrowded, and the VIP atmosphere Olivia worked so hard to create, completely ruined. The final blow came when Olivia's professional photographer took one look at the chaos and bailed. He had been hired to capture a classy, high-end event, not a messy, overcrowded family reunion with people arguing in the background. No perfect photos, no flawless Instagram recap, just chaos. Then came the icing on the cake. One of the younger cousins, probably no older than 7, was running around when he accidentally knocked over a tray of drinks. The glasses tipped, spilling directly onto Olivia's custom-made birthday dress. Red wine. Everywhere. She froze, trying to process what just happened. For a second, she actually tried to pretend it was fine, forcing a fake smile while one of her friends whispered, "This is a disaster." That's when she snapped. Instead of the loud, dramatic outburst everyone expected, Olivia tried to keep it together. But her hands were shaking, her smile was twitching, and anyone who looked closely could see the cracks forming. It only took one more push. Someone in the crowd muttered something about how not everyone can be a perfect hostess, and that was it. Olivia stormed off, slamming the venue door behind her. Her reputation takes a hit the moment she left. The gossip started. Some relatives started whispering about how she was too sensitive and how maybe if she had actually invited the family in the first place, this wouldn't have happened. Others said she was stuck up for acting like she was too good for the rest of them. The trio had always made sure I was the one being laughed at on my birthday. Now, Olivia was the one people were talking about. My brother Ethan, ever the opportunist, had been casually live streaming parts of the night on social media. And wouldn't you know it, the second Olivia stormed off, the live video just happened to still be rolling. People saw everything. Some of Olivia's friends, some of her coworkers. Even a few of her followers who had been expecting glamorous birthday photos got to see her stomping out of the venue in a wine-stained dress. The next day, Olivia tried to get a refund from the venue, claiming they had mismanaged her party. They didn't budge. The contract was clear, her guests caused the chaos, her guests made a mess, and that was her problem. She starts looking at me at first. Olivia blamed everyone except herself. The venue, the staff, the family for being entitled. But over time, she started glancing my way more often. She knew. She couldn't prove anything. But deep down, she suspected me. The best part? Instead of defending her, Olivia's parents scolded her. They told her she should have been more accommodating to family, and that maybe if she hadn't been so exclusive, people wouldn't have felt the need to show up uninvited. For the first time, Olivia got a taste of what it felt like to be on the receiving end. I played my part perfectly, completely innocent, offering fake sympathy while enjoying every second of my victory. Olivia's night had been a complete disaster. And now, it was Megan's turn. Megan had been hyping up her birthday for months. Every conversation, every social media post, she made sure people knew it was going to be the most aesthetic event of the year. A pastel-themed garden party, custom flower arrangements, a professional caterer, and even a dress code for guests. She had planned out every single detail to ensure Instagram perfection. But what she didn't plan for was me. A few days before the party, I casually mentioned to my uncle, Megan's dad, that she must be stressed about the weather. Nothing direct. Just a little comment about how unpredictable the forecast had been lately, and how an outdoor event like hers would be ruined if the ground wasn't prepared properly. That was all it took. The night before the party, he watered the yard like he always did, but heavy rain overnight turned everything into a muddy mess. By the time Megan saw it, it was too late to fix. Her perfect outdoor setup was ruined before the first guest even arrived. Megan didn't notice at first. She was too busy obsessing over last-minute details, fixing her hair, adjusting the table settings, making sure the lighting was just right for photos. Guests started arriving, dressed in their pastel-colored outfits, heels, dress shoes, all completely unsuitable for what waited outside. The first few people tried to step lightly. It didn't help. The moment one of Megan's closest friends took a step toward the decorated table, her heel sank into the wet ground. Another person tried to help her and ended up slipping, catching their balance just in time to avoid a full fall. The realization hit fast. There was no way to walk through the garden without ruining their outfits. Megan rushed outside, completely unaware of what had happened. The second she saw people awkwardly tiptoeing through the mess, trying to avoid sinking into the mud, her expression froze. She tried to downplay it, laughing nervously, insisting it wasn't that bad, but then someone did fall, right in front of everyone. A light pink dress, now smeared in brown. That's when the complaints started. People were muttering about how their shoes were getting wrecked, how their outfits were ruined, how they weren't expecting to wade through swamp conditions just to sit down. Megan's face was getting redder by the second, but she still tried to keep it together. Then, the catering disaster hit. Earlier in the week, I had called the catering company pretending to be her assistant. A friendly little check-in, just to ask if Megan was certain about keeping her booking since she was still deciding. The next day, they called Megan back to confirm she still wanted their service. Thinking it was just a mistake, she dismissed it without checking. So when her guests were already frustrated, standing in mud and expecting food, there was nothing. Megan ran inside to check, only to realize no one had arrived. No catering staff, no food trays, no drinks, nothing. She grabbed her phone and called them immediately, only to be told, very politely, that they had assumed she canceled since she hadn't reconfirmed. By the time she got off the call, guests were already getting restless. Some were trying to clean off their shoes. Others were awkwardly standing around, waiting for something to happen. Megan's perfect party was already crumbling, and she knew it. Then, the music cut out. Her trendy, curated Spotify playlist had been playing softly in the background until my brother Ethan connected to the Bluetooth and switched it. Instead of soft indie music, the speakers blared out Elmo's greatest hits. Loud, unavoidable. The opening notes of Elmo's World blasted across the garden. People stared. Some actually laughed, thinking it was a joke. Megan was frozen, her hands clenched at her sides. She grabbed her phone, trying to fix it, but Ethan had already taken control. Every time she tried to switch it back, it jumped to another ridiculous children's song. With no food, no music, and guests covered in mud, people started leaving. Slowly at first, making polite excuses, but then it turned into a steady stream. Megan tried to stop them, assuring them food was coming, but there was nothing she could do. Then, the final blow, her photographer. She had hired a professional to capture all the candid moments, but there was nothing good to capture. Instead of flawless, elegant photos, the photographer had shots of frustrated guests, muddy footprints, and a half-empty venue. He tried his best, but Megan could see the pictures weren't coming out the way she had envisioned. That's when she cracked. She had been holding it together up until then, clenching her teeth through every disaster, but the second she caught a glimpse of herself in the reflection of the glass door, of her expensive custom dress streaked with mud, it was over. Her eyes welled up. She turned sharply, rushing inside. A few guests followed, but before anyone could get to her, she had already locked herself in the bathroom. Her mom tried to calm things down, reassuring guests that everything was fine, that food was on the way, but the damage was done. More people left. Her closest friends were whispering to each other, glancing toward the bathroom door. The aesthetic, the perfection, the Instagram-worthy event, it was ruined. And I was right there, standing in the middle of it all, acting completely shocked. Megan eventually came back out, her face blotchy, her smile forced. She was trying so hard to pretend she was fine, thanking the remaining guests, brushing off the disaster as if it wasn't as bad as it seemed. But people were already talking, already laughing behind her back. I walked up, looked her right in the eye, and gave the most innocent apology I could manage. "Oh no, I'm so sorry this happened." She barely managed a nod before turning away. 2 down, 1 to go, and Jake? I already knew exactly how to take him down. Jake's birthday was supposed to be legendary. He had spent weeks talking about it, how it was going to be the best party of the year, how everyone who was anyone would be there, how it would be a night to remember. A full bar crawl, VIP sections, friends, family, and even some of his coworkers from his new job. He had planned everything down to the last detail, but what he didn't plan for was me. A few months earlier, I had overheard something interesting. Jake had been bragging to one of his friends about how he had lied on his resume to get his current job. He had told everyone that he quit his last job for a better opportunity, but in reality, he had been fired for falsifying his experience. No one else knew. Not his coworkers, not his parents, not even his closest friends. It was the perfect secret, the kind that wouldn't just ruin his party, but everything he had built around his fake image. I created an anonymous email account and drafted a message. I kept it short, professional, just the facts, in his old termination, the falsified resume, screenshots of posts he had made bragging about it, and I scheduled it to send directly to his boss. The timing was perfect. On the morning of Jake's party, his boss received the email, but I didn't want the damage to hit right away. I needed it to unfold, slowly, publicly. Jake showed up at the first bar of the night with full confidence, drinking, laughing, making his usual cocky jokes. His coworkers arrived soon after, still completely unaware of what was coming. Everything was going exactly how he wanted, until his phone buzzed. At first, he ignored it, then it buzzed again. And again. He glanced at the screen, frowning slightly. That was the first crack in his confidence. More notifications started coming in. His work friends, one by one, checked their phones. A few of them suddenly looked uncomfortable. Some leaned in to whisper to each other. Others scrolled through their emails with furrowed brows. Then Jake's boss arrived. It was supposed to be a casual drop-in. Just a quick appearance, a drink, a congratulations for the bright future Jake had been bragging about. But instead, he walked straight up to Jake and pulled him aside. Jake tried to brush it off at first, laughing like it was nothing, but his boss wasn't smiling. He spoke low, sharp, direct. Jake's expression slowly shifted, from confusion to something closer to panic. People started noticing. Conversations quieted. More people were checking their emails, whispering, looking toward Jake. He was trying to explain something to his boss, gesturing with his hands, but his boss's expression never changed. After a few more words, he simply turned and walked out of the bar. Jake stood there, frozen. Then, one of his coworkers spoke up, loud enough for people nearby to hear. "So, you didn't actually work at that last company?" The floodgates opened. People started asking questions. Not in private, but right there, in the middle of the crowded bar. More coworkers pulled out their phones, scrolling through the email. Some were laughing. Others looked furious. Jake kept trying to deny it, but there was proof. The email contained enough to raise suspicions. Notes about inconsistencies in his resume, questions about his past employment. At first, Jake tried to laugh it off, but once his boss started verifying the claims, it was clear he was in trouble. By the end of the week, a formal review was underway, and Jake realized his career wasn't as secure as he thought. The same way he used to mock me. The same way he used to humiliate me in front of everyone. But now it was his name being dragged through the dirt. his stories being questioned. People he had worked so hard to impress were laughing at him. The final blow came when one of his closest friends, someone who had always backed him up, simply shook their head, muttered something under their breath, and walked away. One by one, others followed. His own friends started leaving. His coworkers paid their tabs and disappeared. The people who were supposed to celebrate him were distancing themselves before the damage could spread to them. For the first time in his life, Jake wasn't the center of attention. He was alone. His parents, who had been invited to the later part of the night, showed up just in time to hear someone laughing about how he had been caught lying. His mom turned pale. His dad, who had always been proud of his successful son, looked furious. Unlike Olivia and Megan, they didn't try to cover for him. They didn't try to comfort him. They scolded him, right there, in public. Jake didn't even argue. He just stood there, completely stunned, as people walked past him without a word. The moment he realized no one had his back, he grabbed his jacket and bolted for the exit. By the next morning, whispers about Jake's resume scandal had started circulating, but the real fallout took time. Over the next week, his boss quietly began verifying the claims. A few coworkers distanced themselves, and by Friday, Jake was pulled into a serious meeting. After multiple discussions, his boss made it official, his resume deception had been exposed, and they couldn't keep him on the team. His boss wasn't just mad. He was taking action. By the end of the week, Jake was called in for several meetings. By Friday, his boss made it official. His falsified resume had been flagged. His job was gone. And just like that, his perfect reputation was shattered. For the first time, Jake wasn't the one getting the last laugh. 3 birthdays. 3 disasters. The trio was finished. But I wasn't done yet. It didn't take long for the trio to go into full damage control. Olivia, Megan, and Jake were furious. Their birthdays had been disasters, and even though they couldn't prove I had anything to do with it, they knew the problem. Knowing and proving were 2 very different things. The family group chat exploded. Olivia was the first to start ranting, but when she realized she wasn't getting much support, she tried a different tactic, subtly reaching out to people, trying to sow doubts about what really happened. Megan tried to make herself look like the victim, implying that someone must have been out to get her. And Jake? He was furious. I knew it wouldn't end there. If anything, they were already thinking about ways to get back at me. Megan jumped in next, complaining about the catering disaster. She claimed someone must have messed with her booking. She blamed the mix-up, the mud, the music, everything that had gone wrong. Jake, still reeling from the fact that his career had just collapsed, was the most paranoid of them all. He refused to believe it was just bad luck. Someone set me up, he ranted. This didn't just happen. First, he blamed his ex, then his boss, then his friends. But eventually, the focus landed on me. I barely had to say a word. Every time they threw out an accusation, I just responded with confusion. How do you know it was me? Wait, I did that? When? Oh wow, that sounds awful. It was driving them insane. But without proof, they had nothing. My parents took their side at first, just like I expected. They scolded me, saying I must have done something for the 3 of them to be this convinced. But when I asked, where's the proof? They had no answer. Extended family started chiming in. A few relatives, the ones who had been excluded from Olivia's party, weren't exactly sympathetic. They pointed out how suddenly Olivia cared about fairness when she had spent years treating them like they didn't matter. Others mentioned how Megan always acted like she was better than everyone, so it was hard to feel bad for her over a ruined dress. Then, Ethan spoke up. Where was this energy when they ruined her birthdays? The group chat went silent. After that, Olivia changed her approach. Instead of the aggressive blame game, she suddenly wanted a family dinner, a chance to talk things out. She even extended a personal invitation to me, making it very clear that she just wanted to clear the air. I sent a simple message, sorry I have plans. I hope you have fun. Megan tried another tactic. She called me directly, switching between guilt-tripping and pretending to be calm. Look, she said, we know it was you. Just admit it. I played dumb the entire time. She got nowhere. Jake, meanwhile, was dealing with his own downfall. A week after his ruined party, word had spread. The industry he worked in was small, and once people found out about his resume lies, his job prospects dried up completely. He had been sending out applications trying to salvage things, but every potential employer seemed to know. He was done. Megan's social life wasn't much better. She had always been desperate to be in the right circles. But after her birthday fiasco, some of her friends started distancing themselves. A few stopped inviting her to events entirely, calling her too dramatic. Others just quietly phased her out. Then there was Olivia. She had always been the golden girl of the family, the one who people admired, the one who always had control. But after her meltdown, things changed. The younger cousins, the ones she had always treated like background characters, started mocking her. Anytime she walked into a family gathering, someone would whisper "Tantrum Queen," just loud enough for her to hear. The trio's perfect image was falling apart. Desperate, they tried one last move, guilt-tripping my parents. They framed it as family loyalty, saying my parents needed to set things straight. But my dad, who had spent years excusing their behavior, laughed when he heard about Olivia's tantrum. So this is what she's like when she doesn't get her way? That was the moment things shifted. Olivia and Megan tried one last attack, reaching out to extended family in private, spinning their own version of events. Megan called my mom, trying to paint me as a master manipulator. Jake kept insisting he was set up, but it was too late. The family had already seen their true colors. The trio had spent years making me the butt of the joke, and while some family members were starting to see through their behavior, others still tried to defend them. A few relatives called the birthday disasters just bad luck and accused me of overreacting. But as more incidents piled up, their support began to dwindle, and just like that, they gave up. I didn't respond. I didn't react. I just let their own actions ruin them. For the first time in years, they weren't laughing at me. For the first time in years, there was silence, and it was perfect. The trio had faced a rough patch, Their birthdays had been disasters, and their reputations took a serious hit, but they weren't completely ruined overnight. Some friends stuck by them, and they tried to spin their losses as flukes. But over the next few months, their own reactions, tantrums, poor excuses, and misplaced blame gradually pushed more people away. Olivia was the first to attempt damage control. She started posting online about her self-growth journey, sharing inspirational quotes about cutting out toxic people and learning to love herself. She sprinkled in vague posts about fake friends and people who can't handle strong women. It was obvious what she was trying to do, paint herself as the victim of jealous, bitter people who just couldn't stand to see her shine. The problem? Nobody bought it. Her old friends, the ones who had seen her tantrum firsthand, weren't fooled. Some of them even mocked her posts, sending each other screenshots and joking about how she was acting like she had been wronged. Even worse, a few of them started commenting things like, "Is this about the party?" Or, "Girl, you literally screamed at a bartender." The final blow came when a younger cousin, the same one who had accidentally spilled drinks on her dress, left a comment under one of her posts, "Weird, weren't you the toxic one?" Olivia quietly deleted the post and stopped trying to rebrand herself after that. Megan, on the other hand, ran. She had always been obsessed with being liked, with making sure she was seen as classy, stylish, and above all, put together. But after her birthday disaster, people weren't seeing her that way anymore. Her solution? A fresh start. She moved to a new city, hoping to leave the embarrassment behind. She even tried to rebrand herself there, making new social media accounts and curating aesthetic posts about her new life. But the internet never forgets. Word about her meltdown had spread beyond just our family. Her old friends talked. Someone even reposted clips from Ethan's livestream of her storming off at the party. Within a few months, her new social circle started seeing the cracks. People whispered. The invites stopped coming. And then, just like that, Megan stopped posting online entirely. Then there was Jake, the golden boy, the favorite, the one who always had everything handed to him. Except now he had nothing. His reputation in his field was wrecked. Word had spread about his resume lies, and nobody was willing to take a risk on him. His old boss told other companies exactly what had happened. The career he had built through arrogance and fake confidence was gone. Family gatherings were painful for him. He used to be the one everyone wanted to impress, the guy people asked for advice, the one who acted like he had it all figured out. Now, nobody even brought up work around him. He had gone from the family success story to the cousin people whispered about behind his back. Even his parents couldn't defend him. Instead, they turned on each other. At first, Jake and Olivia's parents doubled down, insisting their kids had been set up. But as more people called them out and Jake's career troubles became undeniable, cracks started forming in their united front. Olivia's mom blamed Jake for getting them all in trouble, while Jake's dad muttered about how Olivia and Megan had always been too obsessed with appearances. What had once been a perfect front of family unity was now full of passive-aggressive arguments at every gathering. There were arguments at family events, snide remarks, tension that hadn't been there before. Their perfect united front started to crack. And as for the trio, their friendship fell apart too. They weren't laughing together anymore. They weren't a team anymore. At first, it was subtle. Olivia stopped liking Megan's posts. Jake didn't bother to show up when Olivia needed support. The little things. Then, at one family event, Megan made a joke about how Olivia had been dramatic at her party. Olivia snapped back, calling Megan a spoiled brat who couldn't handle things not going her way. For the first time, they were turning on each other. The trio wasn't a trio anymore. My parents saw it all happen. And for the first time, they actually seemed to get it. One night, my mom sat down next to me, hesitated for a moment, then muttered something I never thought I'd hear her say. "Maybe we should have stood up for you sooner." She didn't say more than that, but she didn't need to. The best moment came at a family gathering a few months later. A relative, probably trying to lighten the mood, casually joked, "Hey, let's make sure nobody's birthday gets ruined this year." The room went quiet. The trio didn't say a word. Olivia's jaw tightened. Megan suddenly found something interesting on her phone. Jake avoided eye contact completely. The younger cousins, the ones who had spent years watching me get humiliated, started coming to me instead of them, asking me for advice. Sitting next to me at dinner instead of flocking around Olivia or Megan. The dynamic had shifted. And from that moment on, nobody ever dared to mess with my birthday again. I blocked the trio after that. I had no interest in keeping them in my life. They weren't a threat anymore. They never recovered. Their reputations stayed ruined. Their power over the family was gone. And for the first time in years, when my birthday rolled around, I blew out my candles with a real smile. No pranks, no whispered jokes, no humiliation, just laughter. Real, genuine laughter. And that was the best revenge of all.